Hello and welcome to our in-depth review of the old versus new instrument webinar. My name is John Ratcliffe and it's my pleasure today to take you through the webinar. First of all, this is a re-recording of the original presentation conducted at the workshop sessions in February 2020, and we have had the opportunity to incorporate some of your questions asked at the time during that particular session. So why have we changed the audit instrument? Well, we've changed the audit instrument to effectively align the audit to reflect the national core audit elements, which we'll discuss further later on. And also to facilitate the prime workplace NL requirements and to incorporate any new legislative or training standards, i.e. harassment, supervisor and traffic control. So to gain a better understanding of the changes that we've made to the audit instrument, we've identified three main areas to focus upon. The new format explanation, what's new in the audit instrument, and also what's improved. All of these changes have been made in consultation with Workplace NL to ensure that all of the prime requirements have been met. So the new format then. So the format has changed from landscape to portrait, also with an updated picture. So what's new? The national core audit elements. We've always agreed as part of the NLCSA that the 13 elements are nationally recognised everywhere, but they were put in the audit instrument in different sections throughout the actual audit instrument. What we've done now, we've actually aligned them 1 to 13. Now, there was always scope to add the 14th element, which was based on a provincial requirement. Not every province has the same requirements. So the new audit tool allows us then to incorporate elements 1 to 13 as a national core audit standard, and then 14 onwards would be the provincial elements. That's relative to each province. In Newfoundland, because we have many legislative requirements, we've actually broken them down into a further 14 elements and are detailed in elements 14 to 28. Here's a copy of the old summary sheet. As you can see, we had 27 sections and we also had a total score of 366. Obviously, that's the maximum score without elements that are not applicable to your company being taken away to make the actual total possible score. So that was the old audit summary sheet. So the new audit summary sheet then. As you can see there, we have elements 1 to 13. That's part of the national audit. And then elements 14 to 28, that's the provincial supplement that's relative to Newfoundland. As you can see then, the total score is slightly different. Okay. It doesn't actually mean the audit is necessarily any longer than the original audit. It's just broken down differently and points are awarded slightly different. We just, at this point, I suppose I'd like to sort of emphasize, we don't award partial points. It's either all or nothing, or it could be not applicable to you. Some audit information then. The old audit instrument requested details about the audit, the company and the auditor, all on the first page, and that was the audit information sheet. And that's when we wanted you to put down the date of the audit, when you started, when you finished, the locations you visited, number of workers, how many people you interviewed, the names of them, what position they were, etc., etc. Okay, and that's where you put down who the auditor was. So as you can see on the right hand side, this is the new cover of the audit instrument, and it's where the auditor will record only the company details. The auditor will record their details later on in a different sheet. Okay, so this is where the auditor records where the company's details are and the date of the audit. So the new audit now captures the additional details, active and inactive work sites somewhere else in the actual audit, and we'll discuss that later on in the presentation. So audit action plan then. So we previously required that an action plan be prepared, but we didn't actually always require it to be submitted. The old audit also included a small space for comments if the company wasn't awarded 4 points. But what we have learned over the years is that it's normally a one-word answer, or there wasn't enough room to write down what you were going to do or how you're going to action that particular issue that you had. So what we've done in the new audit instrument, we've actually developed an audit action plan, which is now a mandatory requirement for the auditor to complete. In addition, items which have now been closed out during the time of the audit are now required to be submitted with the audit. Okay, so if the company or the auditor actually does the audit and gives the company 78%, identifies all the items that need to be worked on, they can put in there in the action plan their corrective actions. The company can work on that whilst the internal audit has been submitted. We will work on it as well, and hopefully in that time frame, by the time we get it and we work on it, you would have identified all those issues, and then you can send that in as well. Okay, so it saves time, actually, it really does. Also, we can actually request additional information to be submitted once the audit and action plan have been reviewed. Based on that action plan, we can actually guide and help our members to improve on their safety program based on that action plan as well. Changes to the layout then of the audit instrument. So this is the old audit instrument. It always contained an introductory statement describing how each of the 27 sections may apply to your company. In this example, this section 4, hazard assessments. And then we further broke them down into subsections. As you can see, they're highlighted then 4-0-1. Okay, these are all subsections. And these sections separated all the audit questions in each section on a separate page. And the guidelines corresponding to each audit question were actually embedded on that sectional sheet that you can see in front of you now as well. So the guidelines in this one will be: review the comprehensive assessment documentation that takes into consideration the jobs, working alone, etc., etc. Okay, and then we ask you to put a date in there. Also, we incorporated any questions, and then as you can see there, it's got management in that particular question. So that question would only be asked to management, and then 50% positive is required to actually get the full score. Unlike the employee, management, worker rep, designate, etc., that's where the question there would be. Okay, this is another example of the old one. This is subsection 4.02, and it just says there with the guidelines, okay, review completed hazard assessments, were hazards completed, yes or no, etc., etc. Okay. Continuation again, but this is all from our old audit instrument. So I'm sure you're all very familiar with this. Well, this is how the new section corresponds then. Each audit sections, not the subsections, but the main audit section, is now separated as an audit element. So we call them elements now. Every element will have a cover page. In this one, we're taking hazard assessments and analysis of control. Like the old one, this is the new one. So element 2, The big circle that you see there on the bottom of the sheet, all this information throughout the audit instrument, the new audit instrument, these are the paperwork, the documentation that you have to submit along with the audit instrument. This isn't new, this is basically, we put this in place to reflect your first reminder letter. So when that first reminder letter got sent to you, it said please send in your, okay. So we've incorporated this in the new audit instrument at the cover page of each element now. So on the left-hand side, we've removed all the guidelines that were in the center part of the old instrument, and we've actually put them on its own page, which corresponds to exact opposite the actual workings out, the verification, what we actually need. So the guidelines describe what the auditor must do in order to verify the answers to the audit questions. Okay, so as you can see there on the left-hand side, it's 2.2, and then you correspond that with 2.2 or 2.1, and it will tell you review documentation and confirm that. Okay, so on page 24, on opposite side of the guidelines, it says, has the organisation conducted a comprehensive hazard assessment of all work activities, and has this been communicated to the workers? Okay, you see there techniques employed, DOI, O, observation and interviews have been blanked out, so it's a documentation check, and you either did it, given 5 points, or you didn't do it and you got 0 points. Okay, and then what you do then, you count up all your points and then put it in the total box at the bottom, and then you transfer that to the score sheet of the summary sheet that we saw and we talked about previously. And the next page of that particular element will be all of your questions. At the moment, we haven't put the interview questions in a question bank at the end of the audit instrument. What we're going to do, we're going to break down the new audit instrument into all the different sections with an audit instrument that's complete, but also an audit instrument that the guidelines have been taken out, and any supporting documentation, we put extra copies in on our website in a PDF form. So it's all there for you. So if interviews are required, they're all listed together now on the back page of that particular element. Okay, so fundamentally, that is the main differences between the old versus new instrument. On the next element, the next session, we'll go through and start talking about the what's new.